You're listening to Pro Booth Talk, education and insights for photo booth company owners.
All right. Event details, take 2. Welcome, Lap.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, welcome to Pro Booth Talk. We just had a mishap. We recorded like 2 hours of an episode and realized we weren't recording. Just kidding. It was like 2 minutes, but anyways, here we are back. And we wanted to discuss event details. And to start that conversation, I have a story of my own. About 2017 or 18. We had an event, which was a repeat client. They had us every year, and this year we came and we got to the ballroom and it was completely dark, and we reached out to the client and they panicked and said we're supposed to be there tomorrow, which of course made us panic. And fortunately the day was wrong in that direction. You know, it wasn't like you were supposed to be here yesterday and we missed it, we could still come tomorrow. But of course I frantically went through all our records, and unfortunately it was not our fault. They requested that date. I don't know if it was a typo on their end or if it changed at some point, but that was the date that they requested, and that was the date that was booked. But you know, I had to take some responsibility because I didn't have any kind of double check or backup system to make sure information was correct. And it was certainly a learning experience for us. And now the date of the event is pretty much on any client contact. If we're emailing them, say this is about your December 21st event. So they see that date over and over and over again. And then if it's wrong, I mean, at that point you could say like you had like 14 touches with the date that we had booked for you before your date. So I just wanted to kind of go over some of the...
That happens though. Like I have a similar story, but the opposite, where they gave me a specific date and it's in my header and my emails. It was several points of contact where I confirmed the date and talked about event details, and her event ended up being, so it was booked on a random date, like a Tuesday. That's the reason why I kept reconfirming, because it's really random to have an event on a Tuesday outside of like December. And I got a call on Saturday, like, where are you guys at? I had my daughter was like 6 months at the time.
Oh,
and my daughter in my hand. I didn't even bother looking up, you know, like where the ball was dropped. All I cared about was getting a team there, getting equipment together, and like programming this. We did this. Yes, figured out later. All we knew was like we were supposed to be there an hour ago to set up. We had a 45-minute window. That's exactly how long it took us to get there and set up. We actually set up and was on time with 2 minutes to spare.
Wow.
It was so wild. And when I went back, because this is like your worst nightmare, right? As a business owner, this is like your worst nightmare, forgetting or just not having this event on your calendar and you getting that horrible call, you know? And, it went well. The event went well. The client was really happy. And I went back and reviewed my communication with them. And there was several points where I kept the Tuesday stood out to me. So there were several points where I kept reconfirming the date, but I think the client just they just overlooked it. So it happens, you know, it can happen on our end and on their end. Even when you double check the dates or triple check, I think I quadruple checked that date and it still happened. And so being prepared with like equipment ready, that worked to my benefit that day. You know, I still had to pull and double check all the, you know, go through the checklist and stuff. But the fact that our booths are pretty much, we always have at least one booth ready because all of our events are so last minute. We were able to still like deliver it on time with 2 minutes to spare, which was a miracle, because I literally was like, here.
Yeah, and it still, of course, matters who's at fault, because now the client knows that they were at fault, but you still made things happen, and that, you know, they're never going to go with another company like that. That's just so impressive that you were able to pull that together. And certainly, hopefully they see that and recognize that, but you never know. So we just want to talk about some of what we collect, when we collect it, how we collect it, and that stuff. I think we're probably pretty different in these respects, so it'll be kind of interesting.
How do you go about doing it?
As far as software, we've spoken before about the CRMs that we use, and I use 17 Hats, and so we've got a series of different forms. So we've got like one general event form, that has like the where, when, all the event like specifics, and we've got a couple of versions of that depending on if it's a social event or marketing event or whatnot, or a planner that we work all the time with, or like a venue so we already know where it's going to be. And then each one of our different services has its own form as well. So if you book, like a glamour, that has its own form because it asks different questions or whatnot. So that is what we do through 17 Hats. And I will even like go through that real quickly. And
When is this submitted to them? When do you send this out to your client? Is
that
this
is a
during the contact form? Is this
great
pre-event?
question. So we do it pre-event, but we wait. Like when we first started years ago, we actually sent it like as soon as they booked. But we have found over the years that event details change all the time, and for whatever reason, nobody tells the photo booth company when shit changes. So like the days may change, the times, the locations, where you're
And
setting up. So we wait till 30 days out to collect those details when they're probably not going to change again. On our like booking form, there's some like soft details, but we just kind of reconfirm those. So we state the time and day again. Let's see. And then there's a big bold thing that says like, if your event is not on this date, call us immediately, which is a result of that story I mentioned before. And then we've got a start time and an end time, just so we can confirm that. And then we ask if the event will run the photo booth will run the duration of the event. We want to know if we're loading in before or during the event or unloading during the event so that we can prepare for that. And then with 17 Hats, I imagine most CRMs do the same thing, but you have like nested questions. So if they say, yes, the photo booth is running the duration of the event, then it just goes on. But if it says no, then it opens up new questions. It says, okay, like what time does your event start versus what time does the photo booth start? Is your event going to impact our ability to load in or load out? Those sort of things. But going past that, what type of venue will the event be located at? In Vegas, that's important to us because parking can get very expensive. So if it's a Las Vegas Strip property, we want to find out if they can validate parking or if we need to charge them for parking, especially if there's a special event going on. Like parking can be anywhere from $20 to $200 depending on what's going on. So if they say it's non-strip, then parking is generally free in Vegas if it's not on the strip. And if they say it's at a private residence, we want to know that as well so we can find out if there's gate codes. Oftentimes private residences don't have ramps and things like that, so we need to be prepared to like carry things upstairs or whatever, up driveways, through backyards. And then of course we get the full address. Even if it's at a venue like say like Caesar's Palace, we still make them enter the full address because for some reason like there's properties here that just like to name themselves the same thing. Like we've got the Caesars Forum and Forum at Caesars, and these two properties are like, I don't know, like 4 miles apart from each other, and they're virtually
courthouse isn't bad.
Well, it is if you like show up and you unload your car and you go, so
Yeah.
it's bad enough that like you should not have named it the same thing. Like Forum at Caesars and Caesars Forum is way too close. And then you have, the MGM and the the MGM Gardens. So there's just several properties that have very, very similar names. So we have them enter the address just in case they are telling us the wrong name, which they do all the time. Like I will tell you, if we're at the Caesars Forum, like 100% of the time during the event, at least 5% of the people that come up and actually chat with us will be like, yeah, I got here late because I went to the Forum at Caesars. Like it's the guests too. Like it's a big problem. So it's pretty annoying, but I want that clarification. Then we ask if the booth is going to be set up indoors. Again, if it's a yes, then it just quickly continues on the form. But if it's a no, then, we let them know that we want overhead coverage. We need to know if we don't have overhead coverage. We need to let them, we have some disclaimers that say like, if the temperatures pass a certain degree, like we can't guarantee that the booth is going to be operational because, things are hot and people don't realize that in 115 degrees, not only is the booth too hot to work, but it's too hot for people to touch. They can't even touch the start screen. So it's just not practical. So we want to make sure people are prepared for that. And like we discussed on the backdrop episode, that gives us the ability to prepare with the back prop, the backdrop stand, or anything else that we need for an outside setup. And then let's see. We ask if they have a point of contact other than themselves, so we know who we're talking to at the event. We ask if they're working with an independent planner, who our day of contact is. I guess it's the same thing. And then we ask what their children policy is. We don't necessarily have a children policy. We just do whatever they want, but we want to know what they want. So
You said a what? A children's policy?
Children policy. Like, will there be children at the event? And if there are, do you want us to give them free range over the photo booth, or do you want them to only children with adults? Because sometimes they'll be like, no, we don't want kids at the photo booth, because, you know, kids can overwhelm a photo booth and make it uninviting for adults sometimes. So, but if they want the kids to go wild at the photo booth, especially, you know, if it's a mitzvah, obviously they want the kids to take advantage of the photo booth, then just let us know, and that's fine. But maybe it's a gala and some people have kids there and they don't want kids to be at the photo booth without their respective parents or something. So we just ask what their preferences are. We ask if they're providing meals. I know that seems to be a hot topic with a lot of photo boothers getting angry that some of us get fed, and they say that they always just bring a sandwich. But I mean, part of the reason I'm in this is because of the amazing wedding meals I get. Like, seriously.
That's how you get chunky, though, man. All those cakes.
Well, I am chunky, and I value every pound. Like, I have had more chicken marsala than anyone should have in their life, and salmon and prime rib, and like every one of those other staple wedding dinners. Yes. So, and one of the reasons we asked that, I mean, two reasons. One, honestly, because it kind of primes them, and maybe they forgot about feeding their vendors, and then they realize,
their vendors, just us. We're always the we're always the vendor that's forgotten. They'll feed everybody else but us unless we have that on. Which is funny. Yeah.
So it works as a reminder that we like to be fed, and also if they say no, we have a response that pops up that just says no problem. We'll instruct our hosts to eat before your event or to bring a snack along. So it's not a big deal to us, but now we can let our staff know, hey, you're not going to be fed, so make sure you bring a candy bar or something. And then we ask if they can provide Wi-Fi. I know it's a hot topic in the groups to never use the venue's Wi-Fi, but we always start there because sometimes it is far more fast and reliable than ours. But if they have Wi-Fi, then it opens up a box that says what's the username and password so we can access it. Of course, we don't rely on that. We test it first. If it doesn't work, then we use our own, but we always start with theirs.
I mean, the more Wi-Fi options you have available, the better. I don't know why you would limit yourself. Like, I always ask for it. You never know whose Wi-Fi is going to be the best. You might as well have access to it. Production Wi-Fi is usually the strongest, though.
Yeah, and so as far as like the event details that aren't service specific, that is it. Which I guess is kind of a lot, but I mean, over doing this for 10 plus years, I mean, we've constantly refined that to like, okay, this question doesn't seem to be as relevant, so we take it out, or this seems to be a pain point, so we'll add it in. Like the outside stuff, it just keeps coming up, even though we put in our contract, hey, if we're outside, like these temperatures are an issue and things like that. Like people don't read their contract, so we put it right in the form.
Yeah.
As soon as they say yes, it's outside, there's something that they have to read and initial so that they can understand that. But so with that form, where are you at? What do you use? How does that compare?
I use Tabe, and my form is very similar to yours. It goes out. I don't send it 30 days out ahead of time because I find a lot of my weddings, they start making a lot of adjustments the week of. So I don't even start planning. And I've had like full on theme changes. So I've had some brides when we used to do weddings. I had some brides that would like start working on design and timelines and everything as soon as they book. And in my market for my clientele, I don't even book that far in advance. I mean, like I maybe book 2 months in advance, maybe 30 days in advance for weddings. So like we'll get planning, we'll start working on design, we'll have timelines done. And the week of the event, we did a whole wedding change. It's a whole theme change. We gotta start from scratch. So I learned through the years that I'm just gonna wait until the week of because so much changes within that last week here in California, in Southern California for me anyways. So I sent it out the week of, and before I used to be kind of weary of like, man, they got so many things going on that last week. Is this a bad idea? But I just find that,
feelings.
Yeah, but I just find that because of the way my market is and just people changing their timeline so frequently that last week, it just makes more sense. And I haven't had any pushback from any of my clients regarding that because they're worried about everything else. And the photo booth for me is very streamlined. Like it's just a matter of like us getting information. All the information that you're asking that's pretty quick. I mean, that's like maybe 10 minutes of their time.
Mm-hmm.
And then our overlays, our print overlays, they're all, I don't want to say they're all custom designed because this is a plug for Cherie's photo booth template. Is it? Oh, I should know this website.
Yeah, especially because it's so close to our own name. So we are Pro Booth Talk. She is Photo Booth Talk.
Photo Booth Talk. So I've been with her since day one, my first PBX. I've had that membership. So I have that for like quick clients that, brides who just want to like pick something out really quick and, no hassle. But most of our designs are custom made and they're made to match their invite. So it's really easy. They send me the invite. I send them, 2 to 4 options that match or kind of have the vibe. And it's worked for me. But all the questions that you asked, I have pretty much the same exact questions. I do put a lot of emphasis on like getting a primary contact and then a secondary contact, because sometimes if they give you just one contact, you're not able to get a hold of that person because that person is the primary person running the entire show.
Right.
They're usually the most difficult to get a hold of. So I've always asked, like, do you have like a sister, or do you have an aunt, or do you have an assistant that we can get a phone number of in case we can't reach the primary person? And that's benefited me.
Yeah, a lot of times DIY brides will just put themselves as the point of contact.
Yeah, that's
great.
Man, yeah, like we need, we need like a sister. Yeah, we need like a sister or an auntie or somebody. So I usually get 2 point of contacts, and then the parking location, the parking directive is what I ask for, because there's occasions where you have to go through the loading docks, you have to go through security, you have to go through like credentialing where they have to like register everybody, you have to bring your driver's license. So I ask things like that in terms of like if there's directive that we need to be aware of that will make it streamlined for our team. And then power within 20 feet. And it's not that we don't have extensions beyond 20 feet, but from my experience, when our power is further than 20 feet away, we have had several occasions where someone has felt a need to unplug us so they could charge their phone. They have no idea where this plug goes to, but they'll go and they'll unplug us and our whole photo booth will shut down. So I do have that discussion with my clients. Like, it's not that we can't, because we've done, I don't want to even share this, but like we've done, I think like 55 feet away, 60 feet away with super long extensions. It's just, we're not able to monitor that plug. We used to gap a plug to the wall.
We do that sometimes.
We don't do it so much. I mean, I think that was more a big thing. Like when you do like residential parties, that was when I first started, we did a lot of residentials, and that was more of a thing. Like when we did residentials, now that we do like venues and we do like more corporate stuff, we don't have that so often. I can't even think of a time that we've had it once we moved away from residentials. But if you do a lot of residentials, try to keep power within sight, because it's such a weird thing to be unplugged to charge a phone, but it does happen very frequently.
I wonder if there's like some kind of like, I'm sure there's something for everything, but I wonder if there's like a pre-made tag you can grab on Amazon that just says like, do not unplug, that's attached to the end of a power
gotta read that tag.
If it's big and red or like yellow, black stripes.
Gotta read that tag.
Or maybe if it has like a little picture of someone getting shocked, like danger.
Let's be real. No one's gonna read it. But yeah, I haven't had that in the last few years. But when I first started, when we did like a lot of house parties and stuff, that was very, very frequent for us. And then when you brought up like the venue names, we have that, except our venues are not 4 minutes apart. They're like 45 minutes. And that's happened a couple of times where like it's the same exact name.
No, I said 4 miles. 4 miles.
Oh, 4 miles. 4 miles.
Definitely not 4 minutes.
But still. But 45 minutes is still, like, I don't even know what the distance is, but we've had maybe 2 or 3 occasions where, we went to the wrong hotel and, we arrived 2 hours early. So we always have enough time to like account for things like that. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest reasons why, when I hear people say like, oh, we just arrived an hour before, I'm like, no, even if it's very cookie cutter, you have to, it literally takes us like 15 minutes to set up our photo booth, but you never know. Anything that arises, you want to have that window of opportunity to be able to like resolve any technical issues, anything with like location. I remember like one time we had set up an event. It was the right hotel, right date, wrong ballroom. Both the bride names of the bride and groom in 2 different ballrooms were so similar.
Really? So there was a wedding there also?
There was 2 weddings and the bride and groom's names were very similar. And so they set up in the wrong ballroom, and the second photo booth showed up and was like, what are you guys doing here? Or I don't know if we were in the right I don't know if it was us in the right ballroom or they were in the right ballroom. I can't remember. I just remember it was 2 booths in the ballroom and one of us was in the wrong room. This was a few years back, and that's happened before too.
It's not as hard to fix. You can typically put it on your rock and roller, your dolly, and kind of move it over, carry the backdrop. So
until you're already set up, and then you're like, oh, dang, let's break all this down and run. But I mean, that was like, I think like one of the brides, it was like a very light difference in spelling for like the bride's names, and that was like how they figured out whose event was whose. So that's happened. Yeah, it is nuts. And you know, in this business, I feel like you just gotta be prepared to roll with the punches and just figure it out. You know, like there's no time to like think about stuff.
General form or formula for showing up, since you mentioned your show up time, it sounds like it's pretty similar to yours. So we pretty much calculate setup time, drive time plus 1 hour. So whatever that is. So we always want to be set up 1 hour early. That way, if there is any troubleshooting, unexpected traffic, if we have to run something out to the venue or, you know, whatever it is. And then best case scenario, there's an hour that, you know, that our rep gets to grab a snack or use the restroom or go finish whatever they're doing on their phone or help carry a table around or, you know, whatever, you know, coordinate with the or chat with the planner a little bit. But our goal is to have an hour between our setup time and go time, which like we do it with every single thing that we do. And the staff gets, I don't know why they get irritated because they're getting paid, but especially when we're doing roamers, they're like, you want me to show up an hour before? Like I just need to turn it on. But
yeah, fine.
That's everything. An
stuff
hour
happens.
Before.
Yeah, stuff happens. And then on the pre-event, it's a link that they go to. On the pre-event, I also have a template I have like a link for them to upload their template right into the pre-event questionnaire. It's built into Tave, so they can actually upload direct in there. And then if they don't want us to custom design an overlay, they just want to like quickly pick one, there's a link that directly connects to Cherie's photo booth talk template builder. Yeah, where they can pick, you know, what
let's
design they want.
Sidebar real quick and throw some love to Cherie because it is a really great service. If you're not already doing it, kind of explain what you're talking about, what her service is.
So Cherie owns photo booth. Gosh, this photo booth
talk.
Photo booth talk, and it is a membership. It's such a great value, you guys. And she's not sponsoring this or anything. I have been with her for so long. And honestly, I love it. Not because I use it so much, but when you do need it, when you have that last minute event where you're like running to the event because it's booked like an hour before and you're on the road, having this photo booth talk membership, I think it's like, I don't know how much it is. It's like,
I'm not sure either, but we also do the same thing. We hardly ever use it at this point. We used to a lot in our younger years, but it's still nice for just like that backup. So we've had it for years as well.
I want to say let's just say it's under 150, 175. When I first signed up, it was a lot cheaper. I don't know where it's at right now, but you have access to her entire library. You're not limited. So you can, if you do a lot of volume, you can do like 20, 50 templates a month. It doesn't matter. I use it like maybe I use the template selector maybe like once in like 6 months. Not that. And even still, that's still worthwhile because all it takes, like I said, is that we book stuff so last minute. Like I've had an event where they booked me. I had enough time to get there. I had 1 hour window, and in an hour window, I wouldn't have had enough time because I custom design in-house a lot of my own stuff. I would not have time to do that. So I was able to just like pull the template straight offline, download it, loaded it in like 5-10 minutes, you know? And just that one time that it saved me for that last minute event is worth the membership. But I also use it besides that one time. I also use it as a base for like a lot of my custom designs. Like if you just kind of want like a general, inspiration, or just like the way because she gives you the Photoshop file, so you can like turn off layers, you can add layers, you can, replace graphics, which I
Make it
love.
your
You can
own.
replace elements. Yeah. So you can customize it for your own. You can change colors. So I love her membership. If you guys don't have it, check it out. It's
And she's also truly an amazing person.
sweet,
Yeah.
such a sweetheart. Yeah. She's going to be at PBX. She's going to be at PBX this year too. She'll be back. She didn't make it out.
Or
last year.
she was at PBX this year, because this is definitely airing after PBX.
Oh, dang, this is after PBX. Darn,
Yeah,
darn.
Published date for this is
Well, if you didn't see her at PBX, go
Yeah.
check out her website.
yeah, and she'll be at PBX next year as well, I'm sure.
So I have that link to her website. And then the other things that I ask is just like if there's stairs, if there's an elevator that we have, if it's ADA compliant. ADA compliant means like if basically like if we're able to, if there's a ramp that we can like roll our equipment onto. If there isn't, then I'll allot for extra time for that. So if there's two flights of stairs, then I know 2 hours is just not going to be enough. So we'll schedule somebody to come out a little bit earlier than that. So things like that are really important. The indoor-outdoor thing sounds so minor, but such a huge deal, because getting that information, I mean, to come with sandbags, to come, if you have like a backdrop prop,
whatever
yeah,
it is. Yeah.
yes. And, to bring things like that, as well as just preparing for lighting. Like if you are running an event in the daytime, most of us keep our photo booth camera settings and flash at like the same, pretty much like the same.
Yeah, just let our strobe like control the lighting, but outside you don't have that option anymore.
Yeah. Outside, especially in like high noon, noon to like 3 to 4 before sunset. I mean, like your lighting, if you don't know anything about lighting, it is not going to be the same as what you have like at night in an event. So if it's going to be outdoors at like 2:00 in the afternoon, then if you don't know anything about lighting, then you should probably brush up on like YouTube and like camera settings and
Yeah, and another little tip with that also, if you go to Google Earth, you can like go to that venue and change the time on Google Earth to the specific day that you're going to be there, and time of day, and it will show you like the sun moves, and it'll show you where the shadows are and where the shadows are cast.
Oh,
and you
wow.
can kind of like, if you're being set up somewhere that's like direct sunlight, you can take a screenshot and send it to your planner and say, it looks like this is probably a really bad spot. It's in direct sunlight, but I noticed there's a lot of shade over here.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But if you do work a lot of outdoor events, guys, get yourself a super powerful flash. Like we have a Alien B 1600, and that overpowers the sun. So if you do run a lot of outdoor events, or you're worried about things like shadows from trees and things like that, get yourself a super powerful flash. There is a difference between them. Like if you've ever looked, and for anybody that doesn't know that there's a difference with flashes.
Yeah, ours are all 800s, and they've served us well. The 400 really is good for 99% of events, but for the DigiB, which is what we use, the price difference is like $40. So once we're already spending 400, we just spend the 340 and go to 800.
Yeah.
But
we have Digi 800s. All of our flashes are Digi 800s, but we do have a couple 1600s for those moments that we just, like if you're beachside, if you're outdoor beachside, I mean, that sun is wild. And 800 is just not gonna overshine. I mean, it will to us. It'll do okay, but
it's almost more just a still light at that point.
Yeah, I feel like you need a 1600 if you're like beachside. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And then what other questions do I ask on the pre-event questionnaire? All the questions that you ask, security credentials. Oh, dress code. That's one that you should also have for your questionnaire. There's some events, like if it's a holiday party or if it's like black tie event, it's good for you to know if they prefer your staff to come dressed in costume or in, black tie attire or casual. Like, if you're doing like a festival outdoors, everybody's wearing like khaki pants and a white polo shirt or a t-shirt. You want to know that, so I add that on there as well. Those are the only ones that I have.
And we actually pretty much don't ask that. I mean, I guess with our marketing events, so our marketing event has a different questionnaire and it does include like some parking logistics, like you mentioned, as far as like load in times for dock access and things like that. But we do say like, this is what we're wearing. like, do you want us to wear something else, or are you providing any swag? 'Cause a lot of times maybe you're working for like, I don't know, Google, and they're going to give you Google shirts or
Adidas, and you
whatever.
get hooked up with some sneakers, and that's the best.
Yeah.
There
Or
was something
Super
else.
Mole, and they make custom swag just for your team. That would be awesome.
Yeah, those are awesome. And then I was going to say the other thing is on the questionnaire I have, what is the earliest we have access to the venue? So normally
That's a
we
good one.
arrive 2 hours. Yeah, because normally we arrive 2 hours prior to the event, but there's occasions where we are so swamped with
So you wanna go
events,
set
like
up
especially
earlier?
December, April, May. Yeah, where we just logistically, we don't have the team to be able to set up all these events all at once. So just having that information ahead of time. And the nice thing is when you ask it like that, you're not telling them, oh, we're going to set up early. It's just, we want to know what's the earliest access if for any reason. I mean, I don't add all that text, but that's what it implies. Like if we need to set up early, what's the earliest that we have access to this venue? And that just gives us flexibility, when we're doing logistics like that Thursday or Friday for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm
And that's helped me a
definitely
lot.
adding that to my form today,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of times when we're kind of swamped and we have to call and say, hey, we know
Yeah.
so it'd be nice to just have that information on everybody to coordinate.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go through all my service questionnaires, because like I said, we've got one specifically for 360, one for Vogue, one for, everything we've got. But so for just a general photo booth, we ask which photo strip size they want, and then like you, it directs them to a place to, well, it asks, are we creating you something custom, or are you choosing one of our pre-designed templates? And if they're choosing one of our pre-designed templates, then it will take them to a database of templates where they can choose theirs. There's an area for them to enter whatever text they want, as well as a box for them to like give us any design if they want to upload invitations or whatever they want us to match with the design. And or else it asks if they're designing it themselves, and if they are, then it creates, sends them
You
some.
give them an option to design it. Is this
for
corporate?
like marketing events, a lot of them do. They have design teams. And if that's the case,
don't offer that. Don't offer that to your wedding clients, you guys.
I would not. But if they choose that, then it gives them some links to download our templates so they know the specs and stuff.
Dimensions. Yeah.
And then for backdrops, again, it asks, are you providing your own, or are we providing one? If we're providing, then it sends them to a database of our backdrops so they can choose which one they want. We ask
just a
them,
note on the backdrops, you guys. I added in the last few years.
I wonder if you're going where I'm going right now.
Go ahead, tell me.
Because we just added this last year, so I wonder if it's the same thing. But we ask if they're attaching anything to the backdrop, like neon signs or flowers or balloons.
Oh no, I don't even go that direction.
We do, just because recently, like, we've had a lot of people like, here's some balloons,
yeah,
and a box of pins, and we're like, we don't do that. Like, we'll help you out, but don't assign us, like, especially neon sign. Like, we'll try to help you out, but be prepared to do that yourself.
Yeah.
So again, if they just click no, then it goes on. But if it says yes, then we want to know, like, is it a neon sign? You can't puncture or damage our backdrop, whatever. If it's flowers, who's doing the flowers? Is it a company that we can coordinate with, or is it you guys doing it specifically, and that sort of thing? And if they say they're creating their own backdrop or bringing in their own backdrop, obviously that's a red flag. We don't want any Etsy like vinyl backdrops. So we ask if they have any photos or anything that we can use to make sure that we're prepared.
Photos of it, though.
Oh yeah, we are very, like, we let them know, like, and we also bring backup backdrops, because we're like, if you're getting something from Etsy, like, choose a backup backdrop, because you don't know how the condition's going to come in. But let's go back to what you were saying. What did you just add in?
It's probably going to be horrendous.
No.
We always bring, when they bring their own backdrop, we always bring one, because it never turned out pretty. Whatever they provide, I'm talking about like for weddings and private parties, not corporate, of course. But I was going to say, I added into my, into the text, under backdrops, like these, I added the word complimentary use of, so our rental includes complimentary use of backdrops. And the reason why I added that was because I was getting a lot of clients who was asking, oh, we're going to supply a backdrop stand and a backdrop. So do we save less? And I'm like,
it's bizarre to me.
Oh, So I found just adding that one small phrase, like you have complimentary use of our backdrops. Here are the options if you would like to select one. Otherwise, let us know if you are providing your own or if you have an install that, like if you have one that's going to be installed, we would like a picture of it. But that has saved me a lot of like long conversations that I used to have with people on like why the price doesn't change just because you have your own backdrop or your own install or whatever.
Yeah, if you go to a hotel and bring your own pillows, they're not going to take the price of pillows off.
Yes, but you can't tell your customer, you can't tell your client that.
Can't say that.
But
But
just
it would
adding
be
that,
a fun like TikTok series.
but just
Just
adding
calling
that little
hotels and
bit. How much did I say? $5 on?
just get to the point where they hang up on you. So what if I'm going to be at my conference for 4 hours? Could I have it prorated? I'm not going to be using the room.
But you guys, if you don't have that for your backdrops, because I know that's like a growing trend of like people supplying their own like Amazon backdrops, add that small phrase and it just will save you such a headache with your client.
And we also, I know things like, I think Boothbook has like an inventory of backdrops. So when the client chooses one, it takes it out of inventory. We're not that fancy. We just have like a gallery. So people tell us what backdrop they want. And there's some backdrops that are popular that we have multiple of, but sometimes, very rarely, people pick the same backdrop. So we have them pick a backup option as well in case their backdrop is not available. And, maybe
you don't promise them the backdrops.
Yeah, so, maybe the backdrop was used the night before and someone, spills wine on it or something, so.
Well, the way and that's happened. I've had blood spilled on one of my backdrops once. My own blood.
Yikes.
I cut myself in the middle. Yeah, I cut myself in the middle of setting up. But, so and when I used to offer props, I used to, phrase it like very general. So for backdrops, I would say choose your favorite 3 in order of preference. And it's going to be based on a first come, first serve. So like whoever booked their event first, they have first choice. So that's how we prioritize. So I just let them know, choose their favorite 3. So they're not guaranteed a specific color unless it's like something that we keep in, like our white backdrops. We have tons of those. We have 2 silver backdrops because those are so popular. And then we have like several black ones, and then everything else, if we have it available, we'll bring it. And when I used to do props, I used to say the same thing. Like we would have clients so we don't have like, when I used to offer props, you guys, I don't do it anymore. But when I used to offer props, I didn't have themed props. Like I know a big thing in the last few years is like wedding props or quince props. That never really fared well for my clients. Like when we did quinces and we had quince props, nobody used them. Like they didn't like them. So I have like very generic props. And if a client sees like back when I used to have props on my social media, they would pick out like, oh, I want that like horse mask, or we rotate through our props. So we can't guarantee that we're going to bring we can't guarantee we can bring specific props. We're going to bring a package of props and it'll be like a mix. So it'll fit everybody, people who are more chill and people who are more wild.
And I'm completely opposite. Like I still do use props, and that is like one of the last questions on the questionnaire. And I try to push away from it. I ask, will you require props? I don't say like, do you want props? Because props are fun. I'm say, do you require props? And say for most events, we recommend no props. But they can still say, yes, I want props. And then it tells them exactly what we're bringing, and every one of our prop boxes are exactly identical.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm all about consistency. If you see us at one event and the other event, I want everything to be exactly the same. So our prop boxes have exactly the same thing in every single one of them.
Oh, yeah, no. I go through a mix. When I used to offer it, now it's not even a discussion because I don't brand myself as a photo booth that brings props. So most people who book us it's not even assumed that we have props. So it's not even, unless they have a conversation with me that they want props. And that's, once every like 3-4 months, once in a blue moon. So very rare.
And we still do have all the theme props. We'll ask them if they want like the wedding or mitzvah or 80s or whatever. Maybe that should be my first step of moving away from props, is getting rid of all those. Because we've got a massive shelf of like just a library of all these different props. And man, I would love to clear up that shelf space.
Don't get me wrong, you guys. I have a ton of props, like bins and bins of like random props, holiday props and theme props. My company moved away from it back in like 2019 or 2018. And since we don't market it, none of our photos on social media reflect that we use props. People just don't even think that we offer props. Yeah.
And let's see, to wrap up my services, I ask if they have any additional notes, and there's a block there to send us any details for anything that we missed. And then I do a little bit of upselling in there that I won't get into because that's an episode all on its own. But yeah.
Y'all gotta listen to his upsells because that's a great way to like increase your margin.
Yes, we're all about increasing that profit margin, especially. I mean, these people are already booked; they're already spending money. You know, we're certainly not pushy salespeople, but you know, we will definitely let people know we have more things to sell. But yeah, that will definitely be a episode because we do a lot of tracking of our upsells, and we have goals specifically for that and whatnot, and then be some good stuff to share. Let's see. Let me go back to our list here. So we kind of handled or discussed this a bit when we had Clay on. If you haven't listened to the episode with Clay and graphic design, go back and check that out. But how do we handle people that don't respond? I guess it happens with information as well, but we see it a lot with when we're designing graphics. People are just like take forever to answer their stuff. But we do get people that don't fill out the forms. So our first step. So we email directly through 17 Hats. If they're not responding, then we will send them another email through like our Gmail email, which by the way isn't at gmail.com. We have it branded. So please always do that. Make sure your company name is in your email. So we'll email them from our support at smashbooth.com outside of 17 Hats because sometimes the 17 Hats emails won't go through. So we will make that first attempt. And then if they're not doing that, I mean, we just call them. And I guess a lot of people have a hard time calling people, but we just pick up the phone and say, hey, we're your photo booth provider. Your event's coming up. Do you have 5 minutes to go through this form? And then we'll just do it with them over the phone. Just ask them the questions. We'll fill it out ourselves just to get it done.
The process, yeah.
Yeah. Like once they're on the phone, we're never going to say, hey, if you get the time, go and fill that out. Like we're just going to get it done while we're on the phone. Because otherwise, I guarantee you're going to be calling them again. So just have the form open in front of you when you call them and just say, hey, if you have 5 minutes, we'll just speed through this and take it off your plate.
One of the common questions related to that is like, what do you do if you book an event and this is not the pre-event too, but if they don't finalize their balance before the event and the event's today, what do you guys do? Because I know that comes up a lot.
I mean, we do different things for different people. I see on the groups a lot of times people say never show up to an event that you haven't got paid. And I mean, we do that all the time because a lot of our clubs that we work with, like golf clubs, are on 30-day nets. And, you know, if we tried to put our foot down and say you need to pay us first, then they would just use a different provider. A lot of the casinos here, like we did a massive thing for New Year's and we still haven't been paid for it. But, you know, we expect to be paid for it, you know, so there's 30-day nets and 60-day nets. And that's, like if you want to branch out to like marketing events and things like that, it's one of the things you have to consider and know that you have to have some money management skills and hold that money in your bank account because a lot of times you're spending money and you're paying staff and stuff and you're getting paid on the back end. For social events, we don't really have that leniency. They book with a 25% deposit and we require payment in full 30 days out. And we haven't seen the issues that I see in the groups. At 30 days, there's an email that automatically goes out.
You haven't had anyone who has not finalized their balance and the event is that day. You haven't had that scenario.
Never. At like 25 days,
wow.
We'll send that like your payment's due again. At like 20 days, I'll just jump on the phone and be like, hey, I'm just trying to wrap up this invoice. And they'll either be like, oh, I'm so sorry. If it's 15 days, then we'll say, you know, typically if it's like at 15 or 10 days, then we'll notice that the forms also haven't been completed and we suspect that this wedding isn't taking place anymore or something. So we'll reach out to the venue and say, hey, are these people still on your books? But if they are, you know, we'll just say we need this settled before the end of the week, or we'll have to.
Are you guys doing this by email, by phone, by call, by text? How are you guys?
We definitely want everything in writing. So we're using email so that we have everything in writing.
I've had this scenario a few times and I know it comes up a lot, especially for people who do like private events. And the way that I've approached it and that has worked really well for me, because I used to be chasing people down for payment up until the day of. And A lot of people will tell me, oh, can we just pay? Can we just pay with you guys? And the way I've approached that is I would send out an email. I would try calling, and sometimes they don't want to answer. So I found texting works, which is really odd. Texting with, hey, what I do is I take it out of the control of like me being the one making the decision on whether their event moves forward or not. Because a lot of these companies that are like single operators, your clients know that you make the call. Like if you want to get paid when you're on site, they know that it's just a matter of you making that decision. So on my end, I've eliminated that. The way I communicate is like, hey, if we don't get this payment finalized in our system, it's not going to go through to our warehouse team. And it's not going to make it onto the truck delivery.
Yes.
I am the warehouse. I am the truck delivery.
You're right. It's so good. Like people want to be the CEO and stuff, but it's so much easier to just say, man, I wish I could help you out, but my boss, he's tough. He won't let me cut you a break.
Yeah, it's like if your payment isn't finalized in our system, our logistics team is not going to have the roster for your event, and your booth is not going to be packed and loaded onto the truck. So we need this payment by XX time today. Otherwise, it's not going to make it. And that has taken a lot of weight. This is back when I did like social events. We don't have this so frequent anymore, but this is something I do want to share for those who are struggling with this. That has worked tremendously for me, just because when people think it's out of your hands, they think it's someone else, and there's a high possibility that their photo booth won't make it on a roster or a list that's being passed.
Whatever that is.
Yes, whatever that list is that you make up, then they are more inclined to make that payment like immediately. And I've had, I remember like chasing down one client that was for like 2 weeks, and they didn't finalize. And when I sent that text out, it was paid like that. So that has eliminated a lot of the pushback with payment. And then the ones who like are still on the fence, for whatever reason, I had one that was on the fence. They were like, okay, we can't finalize this payment. Okay, so at least you have this conversation. Okay, we're going to cancel this. So we're not sending a team out and finding out on site, oh, we decided not to do this, So that has worked tremendously for me, if that's helpful to anybody.
We never would without communication. And we've had situations where people want to, level with us and say, hey, we can't pay until 5 days before. And that's fine, if there's that communication. Yeah. But when there's no communication, we're definitely just letting people know you have till this date, and we're removing you from our calendar. And yeah, we have removed events from the calendar over the last 10 years, and very few have even responded to that email. I think
that's wild. I haven't had that. I've had the one that it was like, okay, we can't.
Yeah.
And the other thing,
my past life was directly before this, I had a payday loan company.
Oh, so you're experienced with it.
Yeah. So that 90% of that business is collecting debt. So I am extremely comfortable with calling up and being like, yo, where's my money? And I have zero sympathy for people that don't have it.
Yeah. That's funny. So I did something very similar. I worked with nonprofits in the school district, and it's like volunteer. So I am very comfortable with like saying the same thing, like where's our pay? Where's our money? But the other thing that I get that I see like a lot of people have questions about, I know this is a little bit off topic of pre-event, but it's kind of related to like when they insist, especially like private parties. A lot of private parties here locally in Southern California, especially the smaller parties, they all insist on like paying cash on site. And like one of the things that I have done to overcome that is just like communicate that our team is there specifically to focus on setting up. So we we don't want our team focus on chasing down event planners or the bride the day of the wedding, and also that they're not authorized to cash handle. And that has helped with eliminating the conversation, or at least shortening that conversation of like them insisting on paying cash. Cause I know that's brought up a lot in the groups. Yeah. If that helps anybody.
Would never have our staff collecting cash either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such yeah.
So let's see, I guess to finalize, we send out in 17 Hats, it's called a contract, but it's not actually a contract, but it is something that we have them sign off on. We call it final confirmation. We send that like 3 days before the event. And essentially we just reiterate everything we've collected because, like you mentioned, like things change. We say this is what time we're showing up, this time what time we're leaving. This is the photo strip you chose, this is the backdrop you chose, this is the text that's going, like everything on there. Here's who we're contacting, here's who we're sending, here's their phone number in case you need to get a hold of them day of, and sign off on this if all of this is correct. And we've put like if this is not signed off, we'll expect that it's correct or something like that, because a lot of people ignore it, unfortunately, but we send that final notice as well.
To that, guys, don't be afraid to circle back with them if there are any changes, because that happens a lot. So a client will reach out and tell you, oh, we need this event for 4-hour rental. And then like the final confirmation, they slip in that this 4-hour event suddenly is a 6-hour event or 8, and they don't even mention it to you. That's happened a few times, guys. Do not feel any sort of way about like circling back, like, hey, we have you guys booked. I know this sounds like such common sense, but I know it happens
a lot
so
too.
often. It happens so often, you guys. Like, don't feel any sort of way about like circling back, like, hey, you know, we have you guys on our calendar from this time for 4 hours, up to 4 hours. And I see that you guys have a time difference in this latest update. We have to circle back and like, you know, we have to alter your proposal for this price difference, you know, or we need to talk about like the times that you actually want us for that 4-hour window. So don't feel hesitant. Like there's a lot of clients that will try to slip stuff through you. They'll try to like, you know, they'll ask for like custom things, like custom backdrop, floral walls, you know, like crazy installs. And they think it's just, you know, they just imply that there's no additional cost. Custom backdrops. Like, don't be afraid to like reach out. Hey, we got this latest update on your event, and it looks like you guys are wanting, you know, floral backdrop. It's $1,000, $1,200. Don't feel any sort of way about them trying to slip stuff through without paying for it. Like, just reach out and say there's a cost to this, you know.
Yeah,
and
if it's on your forms, a lot of times they'll just select it and they'll be like, oh, I'm allowed to do this. And we try to put like fees may apply on there, but also use it as a time for an upsell. Like if they book 3 hours and then they put 6 to 10, don't just approach it like, hey, you need to adjust this to 3 hours. Just say, hey, we noticed that you put your event 6 to 10. We're scheduled right now to 6 to 3. Do you want us to add that hour onto your invoice? And a lot of times I'll just say, yes. How much is it?
Yeah. Yes. But don't, what I was saying is there's a lot of, especially new boothers, where they see stuff like that and they'll just be like, oh man, do I just eat the cost? Like it's an internal conversation they have with themselves. You don't have an internal conversation with yourself. Reach out to your client and say, hey, we have you for 4 hours. This is what you guys booked. You guys are studying here 6 hours. Here's a price difference. Do you want us to add it to your invoice, or do you want to stick with the 4 hours? Don't be afraid to have that conversation. That's more so my point. And it happens enough. A lot of clients will try to slide stuff through.
Yeah, it's very, very frequent.
Yeah.
I could call Maddie in here, our events coordinator, and ask her how often, but I would say it's like maybe 20% of the time. Like it's very frequent that something is selected that they don't have. So get comfortable.
Yeah. Get comfortable with it.
All right, let's wrap that up. If you have any follow-up questions about how we collect details, feel free to reach out to us. And I don't know if we'll do a follow-up episode, but maybe we'll include it in one of like the rapid fire episodes if there's a question or something. But thanks all.
Thanks for joining us.
To keep the conversation going, join our Facebook group, Pro Booth Talk Community. If you enjoyed this podcast, consider showing your support by subscribing, liking, reviewing, or sharing this topic with someone in the industry.